¿Se me oye? Vale. Muy buenas a todos. Muchas gracias a la RootedCON por haberme dejado venir aquí, ¿vale? Y muchas gracias a todos vosotros por asistir. Esta no va a ser una charla.
For inviting me. This is not going to be a technical talk with cryptography. This is a talk of a real company and what we suffer on our day-to-day activities. My name is Eneko Astorquiza. I am the manager in RootedCON. I could be in charge of communications and security, and you know how this works. And the good thing about this is that the bucket stops with you. So the talk is security challenges in the sector of sports bets online. We thought we would give it another title, more appealing one, because I know that I see a lot of you here, but the title that I planned was how to win over the sports bets companies, and this would be full event. So to give you some context, I'm going to tell you who we are for you to realize that we are a small company. Because it was not working, but if I don't connect it to the computer, okay. We are a company that came about in 2002, and we started working in 2008. In the middle, there was nothing. There was no betting regulation in Spain. In 2008, we had the first sort of bets regulation, and it was done in the Basque Country, where 3 licenses were given, one for Codere, Corbe, and for ourselves. And that's where the games and betting were started to be regulated, presential games with machines in facilities. And we came out with Reta 2. We had a previous one that never came out, and we were in catering facilities. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Reta Ave. Have you seen the store in Madrid? We have very few stores. In the Basque Country, what we have these machines in the catering sector, so in bars or hotels. These are machines where you can place bets, and year after year new things came up. We came out in Navarra, in the community of Valencia, and at the beginning we were a company whose attack vector was very small. We didn't have anything published in internet. It was mere presential with internal networks, like VPNs, and we didn't publish anything in internet. But what happened in 2012? We opened our webpage, Retavet, and that changed radically. We are in an environment for the bad guys. Everybody's trying to hack us. You have to have many security measures, and that changed a lot our internal architecture. We brought out another machine, Galicia, Rioja, Cantabria, Murcia, Asturias, Madrid. Here in Madrid, we started with our first stores in 2016. New machines came out 2017. But I want you to realize that here in 2002, the company was 4 people who started working, and in 2008, I think 8 people at most. And it grew gradually. So what are we now? We are over 150 employees, and the whole of our staff are hired by Retavet, even those who are going to make the collection to the machines. And so the ones in the stores are also part of the staff. This is our idea of a company. We want to own it, and the average age is 29. In the technical department is 29 years, so I'm old in that department. Many people with university degrees and 6 years of experience. It's a young company. As I was saying, it really started working on 2008, and not so much time has gone by, 10 years, and in 10 years everybody new who has joined are young people. Our keys, the betting system is our own, so it's all in-house developed. We have developed the machines. We haven't bought to anybody the components of the machines. Come from different vendors. Some are our own, and there's just a company that assembles the whole thing, and it's not in China, okay? It's a Spanish company in the Basque Country. So the philosophy of the company, this is just marketing, it's innovating, and technology is a value. And somebody who comes to sell a product to us, they say, you're different to many companies. In our company, technology is a value, it's not a cost. And if we have a technological problem, we do not make a buck. We have to close the business and go home. So we're not like other companies that have a product as such. They may have a production chain that can keep on producing, but that's not our case. If it goes down, then we're lost, and we look for talent and proactivity, and since the exception confirms the rule, that's why I'm here. I have no talent and I'm not proactive, but so far so good. I can still manage. So I'm going to give you some context. This is public information. It's published by the General Direction of Games and Bets here in Spain, and these are quarterly reports. You have the address at the up, and in the last quarter of 2017 you can say that this was the 1.3 billion euros were bet in one quarter. But if you think that's a lot, this is not all, because there are communities that invoice within the community, and that's not included in this value. So the Basque Country as such invoices in the Basque Country, and in terms of Retabet, they go to the Basque Country section, whereas the people in the state, people in certain communities go into their own community. So you can do the numbers in many different ways. And about that 1.3 billion euros, the gross benefit is 103 million euros, so it's about 10%, and you can look at the curve of the profit, and it's been going up like the Bitcoin value. So there are more and more bets, and it's a growing activity, and that is a problem, because to set up a betting company, the different authorities define certain rules. But if you look at them, what do they ask from us? They don't ask for this. They demand that our web page should support SSL, but you check the different betting firms in the sector, you look at their web page, and they actually use an AF. How can you do that? Is it about changing two things, or in the WAF to change the certificates or the web servers, whatever?
I'm not going to talk much about this, because in the public sector, this type of thing, of finding Fs here, is very common. What else are the bodies requiring? Not just ISO, but also different security measures, passwords, backup, the usual. And many paperwork, lots of paperwork, all over, lots of documents. But as we all know, meeting the requirements doesn't mean being secure. The requirements requested from us are rather to make sure that we have the necessary measures to give a service. A safe service, but they don't focus on the secure part. Some things are useful. For example, having a plan for recovery in the face of disasters. We all know that when a company begins working, this is a plan. This is the first plan of any company. And they develop it here on. So what do we see? If we look at what we can see in a given day, we can see all these things. We have many SQL injection attacks, access to different routes, more SQL injection. We have attacks that do not meet the protocol, attacks to many vulnerabilities. And before I connected, to add something else, and yesterday 11 million different IPs were connected to our environment. And And I have taken out the IPs that have tried to access our website. And eventually, in some speeches, they talk about autonomous systems, and these are usually large companies who are an autonomous system. And we're from Bilbao, you know. We have all the IPs. But you see all the people around who are attacking you all day long, and half of those 11 million IPs are attacking us, scanning ports. We find anonymous proxies. We connect Southern IPs. There are many sorts of IPs that are continuously looking at what we've got there to then publish it on the internet, and if we have any vulnerability, they'll attack it. And eventually, find something important here. And everyone needs to take this into account, and you'll have this in your security. There are many attacks coming from IPs that are known as malicious IPs. Your filters, please filter the IPs, and I'm sure that they will not fail usually. The ones in different malicious lists IPs need to be taken into account and cut those off, and then they may attack the rest. The problem is that we find some continuous insecurity all day long. Why? Because anything may affect us. May be affected by internal errors, by development errors. A development error may mean that our system crashes. Why not? And I'm sure you've experienced this, right? I'm sure someone may have done a development like a query SQL, badly run, there are no indices, and the database just goes mad, and the whole environment is super slow. On the other hand, traders. Our sector has a figure called trader, and just like in the stock market, we have traders who look at what to bet on. We have another figure, which are the traders who review all the matches, so to say. They look at the different possibilities of bets that exist. They check that the data are right, check in with different sources, and they act on those. And they also check if the bets of the users are right, so they don't do anything weird. And they also check the information that we receive for a bet, to place a bet, because sometimes that information is bad, and I'll tell you about that later on. And then my security, the location of the machines, and we have machines in different places, in halls, shops, bars. The shops are ours, and there we have more control. But in the halls and the bars, which kind of control do we have on that? None. Someone could come, do something on our machine, and we cannot do anything. And we also need to take into account that may be a bit problematic, because the machine has money inside, so the fact that there is money may be bad for a bad. It's like with a slot machine, someone comes to take the money. Someone may come to take the money. Without machines, they're not going to try to breach our software. There is money. The first thing they want is to take the money or to take the machine if they cannot open it, which is something that has already happened. The internet is worse, because that makes you spend more money, spend a lot of money, just in case, usually, and you're still as insecure or as non-secure. Some people say, well, look at the attacks, but the most simple thing is what may harm you the most. Domain protection. Okay, let's not think that someone might steal our domain, retabet.ts or whatever, because we've seen it in some suppliers. If they come into my domain and they change the DNSs that my domain is pointing to, they're collapsing me. It's happened to us. We've had some suppliers whose services we could not access, and when we go into the website, we see some advertising. We look at their DNS, and they were pointing to name servers for advertising. And when we talk to them, they're like, okay, somehow they went in, and in their registrar they changed the DNSs this is pointing to, so they cannot give service unless they manage to get that domain and change the data. And for 24 hours they're down without being able to do anything. Being down for 24 hours is a problem for us, And every place has different regulations. There are some more less harsh regulations. Some of them tell you that you can only be down for a few hours, and if you're bad, you get a big fine. They could even take your license out, which is even worse. DNS, okay. So apart from the domain protection, DNS, what happened to Mirai when half of the internet was paralyzed because they attacked some servers? Well, that could affect anyone except for the porn industry. They're the only ones who know how to do it, who know how to protect from that. With 2 DNSs, a known one and a less known one, just in case you can get away with it. And then DOS attacks, that may be internal or external. You know, bad programming may mean that it does something weird, and it can get messy. Or the typical DOS attack, typical TOS attack, such as the F5. You know, if you press F5 for a while, you see that our website keeps going worse and worse, and then if you stop F5, you could not go in. You know, the server memory goes up and it stops giving service. That's a DOS attack from a single piece of equipment, and in some pages this can be done. A DDoS attack that happens on a daily basis, every single day. Earlier I got an alert regarding a new attack of DDoS, I don't know with which vulnerability, for IoT systems, and that happens all the time, as well as directed attacks. Do you know what's bad here regarding these attacks? That we do not know that we're experiencing them. Earlier I showed a picture where I said, okay, all these attacks that we're having, but I don't care about these. I care about the ones that do not appear here. I know about these ones, and I can cut them off, but what about the ones that do not appear here? They're still coming in, and those are the dangerous ones, and those are usually geared or directed. And what do we get from all of this? What are we scared of? Well, in fact, if you think about it, a company such as ours, if we look at the online part, we are usually scared of this. Wooden Hill, DDoS attack 2016. Betfair 2015, DDoS attack. Paddy Power, DDoS attack 2011. And different ones in 2016, DDoS attack. So if we look at what Incapsula says, they say that most attacks in 2017 were done to different websites, and this is sorted out by the number of attacks. If we look at the number of attacks, you get different ones. But if you look at the number of destination, the top was on to betting pages, betting websites. So what we're afraid of the most online is a DDoS attack, because it can kill the online part, it can crash it. So what do we do here? Do we pay or do we protect? I'm sure you come from different companies, and if you don't have a anti-DDoS system and you're thinking about it, do not tell me that you haven't thought of this. What do we do? Do we pay if there's an attack, unless it's anonymous? Usually it's to get money. People want money. So there's usually a threat, but what do we do there? Do I pay or do I acquire protection? And if I pay, will they stop attacking me? Or will they keep attacking me? Let's say they don't attack me. But if I pay, will they tell the rest of the community? Because it's a community, everyone talks, and they're like, hey, this guy has paid, who's going to be the next one? Okay, so I'm not going to pay, I'm going to protect. Do I really buy tools, and do I really know that I'll be protected? No one really knows. And if I protect, until when? So I got rid of the first attack. What about the second one? If I get 200 gigas of attack, will I be able to do something? Here, it's not just good to do something. Here I need to talk to the operators, and they need to help me. And we were talking about critical infrastructures. Okay, that's good, helping the government and so on, but we are private companies, or most of us, and we could always be attacked. And if we are attacked for any reason, who are we affecting? Because it's not just our danger. If I'm an operator and I'm attacked, I affect everyone else in that operator. There could be a part of the private sector or in critical infrastructures, they will also be affected. So we need to talk to operators so that they work, because being an operator is risky. They bear a risk if we are there. But we're not just afraid of this. There's something that is quite scary due to how business works, which is regulations. At some point, a certain region could come and say, hey, you need to comply with this, otherwise you get out. And there's a bit of everything in regulations. In Valencia, we needed to set up 2 CPDs or 2 DPCs because they told us we need to have a DPC there. Everything was working, but in Valencia, Madrid, we need to set up a DPC. Okay, so eventually we need to set up DPCs and have insecurity. Whenever you need to fix something, you need to do it here, but fair enough. And this may affect us. At some point we may need to close that one. But we don't just need to think about the bad guys all the time. We don't just need to protect from the bad guys. As we have said, we have suppliers, and they're indirect attacks. They may attack us, and it's already happened to us in some suppliers. A customer of that supplier gets a denial of service attack, affecting the infrastructures of the actual service supplier, and indirectly that affects us. It may happen to all of us, or to any of us. And what about the feeds? I told you that we have 350 people, so we cannot have people playing every single match, because we don't just have matches in Spain, we have matches all over the world. Snooker, a bit of everything. So usually we have suppliers that send us information continuously, 24 hours long, because in this sector there are 2 things. First of all, the bets that you can do. Well, today this will happen, tomorrow there is a match, and then the live bets. You can say, okay, the next corner kick will be by this team, and after that kick there's a new bet. So all the time their price changes. If they close to the other team's area, it's more likely for that team to have that corner kick. So the percentage changes, and all that information needs to be given to us. What if it's wrong though? What do we do? I'm talking about things that have happened. Finished events. Some suppliers haven't said, well, this match finished. If they don't say that, in the infrastructure, you can still bet on the match. So that's easy. I go place a bet and I earn that money. If no one looks at that, and the traders, 24/7, 365 days a year, if they don't look at this, this may happen. Or about wrong pricing. Sometimes prices are crossed or inverted. If you know that the Madrid is going to win or Barcelona is going to win, you may get the wrong pricing or the wrong names, and people use that to take advantage, of course. And then the speed of information treatment. This is super important. If I don't get something in time, if I cannot process it in time, if I'm getting saturated for another reason, or because the developer did something badly, and that information processing has been done by a developer, someone who may fail. So if I don't do that in time, that may mean that it's useless. So in development we may have bugs, betting logics. These may be controllable by my staff, but we have more things. The users are continuously looking for mistakes. And here, it may be a hardware or development problem, and some machines will allow you to bet for free. If that happens, you always win. You bet for team 1, team 2, sometimes you may lose, but well. And then we have the way of giving the service, of providing the service. Some people take advantage and they use attacks. There are social attacks. They can go to the store and do something with the shopkeeper. And please do not mistake my words. I know it may be ambiguous, but some people come to an agreement to distract the shopkeeper. I tell them that I want to cash a ticket, someone else cashes it as well. You know, they try to do different things. Or there may be a wrong match. Instead of saying Barcelona Madrid, it says Getafe Madrid. And the guy bets in both. So who won? The Madrid, okay. Real Madrid, why not? Since we're Madrid. And the guy says, okay, I've got 2 tickets. He gets one with Getafe, he calls the technical service and says, hey, this was wrong. This is why it failed, so please return my money. So you made a mistake, so you should reimburse the money. However, he should know that we know that he made 2 bets. That can be seen anyhow. And many things are done here. And then we have the bots of information collection. This is quite fashionable nowadays. They get information from different pages, they look at prices, and suppliers are virtually the same for everyone. And then we apply different prices. But what if a supplier or one of the websites changes the price before the others? You know what the others will do. They're going to change because there are favorites on one side, but they may be quicker. And there are bots who do bets that are linked to different betting shops. If this one changes the price, you can go quickly and change this bet because I know it's going to be changed. And then tipsters. It's like in the stock market. Some people give tips. You should know that in this team of the 2nd division, they have a redundancy plan, or they have a Chapter 11. Maybe we don't know, maybe our suppliers do not know, so they'll start giving tips. So we begin seeing many bets for that kind of people. And we also have an important production problem, which is the identity theft. Believe it or not, this is quite a big problem, and we're talking about gaming here, about betting. And you know, minors are important here. Minors cannot bet. And we need to do as much as we can to make sure that these minors, or these people underage, do not bet. And we have machines in bars, and I cannot do anything there. The guy at the bar needs to notice. We can also do it in shops, but in halls. No people under 18 years of age, should be able to go in. But what about online? That's quite difficult. And there's something I haven't mentioned, which is quite important. The bets on machines are anonymous. Anyone can bet on machines. You do not need to get identified unless you go to a store. But if you go to a bar and you bet, that's anonymous, but not online. Online, you get requested for some information and some ID. But I may get my dad's ID or my mum's ID and register. Here we have different systems trying to find out problems. We've seen, for example, that the email belongs to a high school. Unless the person works at a high school, it's weird. Or maybe the user, Francisco Martinez, has been registered, and on the email it says Alvarito Martinez, and you're like, okay, there's something weird here. So we need to look at that kind of things and act on them. You know, like, hey, take a selfie of yourself with your ID. We request that kind of things, and we see all sorts. It's amazing what goes through kids' minds. We even saw a guy, you know, pretty amazing, with his mother's ID. He was taking the selfie, and you're like, hey, what are you on about? Or even this one, a mother was sleeping, and the ID was being held next to her face by someone else. You know, these things do happen, and well, they're kind of crazy. But not just people underage. Some people have been banned from betting. They're on denial lists given by the government or the different authorities. So we also need to do some checks. Online, we need to check, okay, so this ID has been forbidden access and they cannot register. We also have the betting limits. In all of these, there's some risk control. Not everyone can bet the same thing. So Some people may bet more, some people may bet less. However, some people have certain limits that they don't want. So they try to do identity theft. They create more users, but this is easier to detect because usually they have pretty simple game patterns, and we have our own intelligences, and our automated process is able to detect patterns, to be able to identify those people. Okay? I'm going to show you something that I looked at, which are the bots. And this is just an example that we see about. We're able to detect usually that if you connect to some transactions, we pretty much know how many requests there are, but 100,000 requests or 200,000 for the same IP is not very normal. So this is actually an IP without an allocated user, which is quite important. No user connected there, and they have an access to details, menus. So this is a person, and we let them do that. No problem. Sometimes there are the service suppliers who check the prices of other platforms. Okay, fair enough. They don't affect us. Then other interesting things, such as this one, are quite remarkable. They start little by little, but on the same IP you have 4 users. What happened there? And they only connect to the main page. They're not getting details or anything. This is usually something who is doing testing. So the first mistake here, it wasn't just a mistake, we haven't cut anything, but we know who they are. And here is their name. I have their login ID. I know their phone. I know where they live. I can call them and say, hey, what are you up to? But they're not doing anything illegal, at least so far. So once they start doing weird things, we put their IP on a monitoring system just in case they begin doing weird things. So protection measures. This is me here. There I am. I have no talent, as I've said. I'm just doing a bit of everything with my equipment. And we try to manage the different things that may happen. Some of them may be known. Infrastructures. What could a platform have like ours? A anti-DDoS system, and it's not just to have that. It's not just good to have that. You may have the suppliers support because you can bear with that for a bit. But you have 300 giga, you won't have much. A perimeter firewall, a WAF. How many of you have ever managed or administered a WAF? Many of you, and you have many problems, right? You usually get a WAF and you're like, oh wow, I'm so cool, I'm going to put this here, I'm going to close everything, and your application crashes everywhere. Okay, so what do you need to give in? Here, I research this, everything's perfect, it works for a while. But what happens? Well, applications are alive. They get updated, and they show different WAF mistakes and errors. So unless the security team is working with the environment team all day long to say, hey, we added this new thing, you get lots of weird things. You get lots of requests that are cut off due to weird things. We're quite harsh with WAF policy. Sometimes something generates a hash that goes in the request, and that's a random hash. And then you get a text /bus. And you're like, okay. They're trying to attack, and the WAF cuts it off, and you're like, okay. Then the development team calls you. It may get crazy. Okay, so the WAF, we need to protect the web servers, the internal firewall, the application layer, the databases, millions of events. Eventually, you have a CM. What for? To unify all events. Earlier I said that we don't outsource, and there's only one thing that we outsource, technically, which is the SOC service. We don't have enough people right now. We have 350 people, and I can assure you that most people there work in the shops, but technically speaking, we have a lot less staff than many other companies in the sector. We're small. Honestly. What are we invoicing a day? Some companies in the sector invoice it in less than 1 hour. And just in marketing, they spend more than our whole yearly turnover. And we need to take that into account. who wins online? Bet365. Bet365. They have the highest online turnover, and half of the companies who only do online, they're kind of breaking even because it's a very harsh market. What saves us? Our face-to-face market, the machines that we've had forever. Online, we have less than 1% of the market in Spain, and it still represents a lot of money, that less than 1%. So we want to less online. We want to grow online. When machines are another protection measure, what do we do with machines? We have locks. Now, for people who love playing with the locks, and I'm sure that there are many people doing that in this event. We have done research to have smart locks, where intelligence is not in the key. Intelligence instead is in the connected lock to register or deregister keys to be able to open it. On the other hand, we have a millimeter and a half sheet. When some people go to try to open the machine, they take the machine because they cannot open it in the bar. Everyone will know. And we try to have no man in the middle. The communication router, we put it inside the machine. Every machine, except for the shops, is connected to an internet line. We pay an internet line to the bars, and the fiber goes into the machine. There's only a fiber outside, communications cabling, and we do that so that they cannot fiddle with them. Some of them have routers outside, and well, we'll see what they do, but there's another problem here. What about if there is no DSL or fiber? What do you have there without broadband? Well, it plays a 3G. So with a 3G, even though it plays it inside, they can come with different tools and make a mess. So that insecurity, if we go in with 3G, there it is. But a machine cannot do much. It's like a silly screen. It just has the money and the software managing the devices it has. The other thing is just a screen. So against our infrastructure, not much can be done. But not everything is infrastructure and machines. We are a betting shop, so we need to protect our bets. And bets have different elements. Betting type controls. If someone bets that A will win and B wins at the same time, something weird will happen because that's not normal. They'll lose money. So we do have controls, looking at the type of bets. We have weird things, and we review the information coming from suppliers. If it's bad, they begin betting. And we also have dead man systems. These will be known with people who are in the industry. And how many of you know the dead man systems? Okay, so same thing here. If I have an open bet and I'm not getting the information in time, or I think that I'm not getting it in time, I do have a problem. So I apply a dead man system. And those bets have been already made by account no bets. So that possibility of betting is not reliable anymore for me. I'm having some sort of problem. It may be mine, it may be the suppliers, but I cannot let people to continue betting. I have a risk system, launching a dead man system for that bet, and that bet goes down. Whoever tries to bet cannot bet on that bet. You know, the former bettors maybe took advantage of that.
Variables for automatic control of allowed risk. And when I heard that, I thought, great, but basically it's any bet has a betting limit. If I say that it's Barça Osasuna, then there's a limit of bets for that match, for that game. So it depends on the risk, and as the bets are filled, I get alarms, and I can say I can allow for more bets or not for one particular game, because I have to validate the risk. We have to take into account that everybody believes or looked at the betting companies. They compare them with machines for betting, but it's but we with betting machines or game, we do not keep a percentage, and there are no statistics that a roulette works that way. For us, there are days where we lose a lot of money when because sometimes there is a day in the league that we know who's going to win, and we lose a lot of money. But here the theories of the large firms, of the large accounts. The thing is, there are so many bets that at the end of the day we end up winning. And I've shown you that in the last quarter, more or less, the benefit had been 10% of invoicing, 103 million euros. That's in a quarter. That's a lot of money. And then we have bet limits for per user. We never get to those because there's the limit of the number of bets and the amount that you may bet, and you get to the money limit before you get to the bet limit. And then the limit in betting in outlets, because online you know who is betting, but in presential betting then you don't know who that person is. And I can see strange things that are happening in different machines, and I can set limits by machine that you cannot bet on certain categories. That can be done. I'm going to give you some figures about us. By day we have some 400, 500 live events. And there are many options for that. If within each event, who's going to score the next goal, but for football and for everything else, there are 75,000 allocations of results per day. These are bets that have been closed on that day, and 20,000 transactions per second. This is what the monitoring of the databases says, but that's not the case. If we really looked at transactions per second that are really related with bets, we might be talking about some 400, 500, but there are a lot of transactions of the databases that are about information. So what I've said earlier on, we're below 1% online. Go to 3B65, I can only imagine, or go to the IBEX 35. If I look at the problems that I have, well, imagine if you go to IBEX 35, and I've been talking to other suppliers, and they have a lot of protection, but nevertheless, if they really want to do damage to you, they're going to succeed. So our conclusion has to be that there are always enemies. We're going to have the bad guys outside. They're always going to be there trying to damage us, and as much as we can, we're going to do our best, and we'll keep on moving forward, and we base ourselves on our resort to talent. And I wanted to say here that if you want to work on Reta, forget about the betting sector. It's about technology, and we believe we're always hiring. We believe that talent is difficult to find when you do not allow for remote working. And I can say that if you want to come to work to a nice place, these are the views from our coffee place, and sometimes there are cows around, but we seem to have eaten them up. And Wednesday, before I came here, something very nice happened in Bilbao. This was our office on Wednesday. Doesn't it look great? But if you would consider coming to work to Bilbao and to Reta, this is not reality. This is reality in Bilbao. You have to know that it's going to rain. But nevertheless, we encourage you to come, and we want to have you. So if you want to send us your CV, we are looking for a lot of development, because at the end of the day we are a development company, but we also have machines. So we're interested in you. So let us know. That's what I wanted to tell you. If you have questions, I'd be delighted to take them. With the machines, are they anonymous? What control do you have on money laundering? Or somebody who is in the blacklist maybe using those machines? When you go to our stores, there is control. For instance, here in Madrid, there are things that I've left out in Madrid. The regulations are that you have to ask from everybody that comes into the store. You need their identification card, and you check on a list of people who are banned. Money laundering. In Madrid, there are no limits for how much you bet in the Basque Country. The maximum bet you can make is 50 euros. I think it's gone up to 100. So each community has its own regulation. So if I limit the type of bet, well, the money laundering, I can check online where you see that a bit more clearly. But we're always looking out for money laundering because it's important for us. We can get a huge sanction. But when you're dealing with machines, it's difficult to control what happens in hotel and catering. If a guy comes into a bar and they introduce 50 euros here and there, even if it's in the simplest bet, because this is all about probability. But if you look at a match or a game, and you're looking at Barcelona-Osasuna, and if it's you can get one for 2, and in the Basque Country, if somebody wanted to launder money, they would have to do it 50 by 50 euros, and I think that there are no limits here in Madrid, but there are only stores. How difficult or how long has it taken you to adapt the CM platform to the specificity of this sector, of this company? Yeah, of this sector. You're nasty. Well, the CM wasn't too hard to adapt. It is true that we have a soft behind, and we've had a lot of support. Before that, I learned how the platform worked, and with my colleagues, we tested all of the CM platforms available, and taking into account that we are very limited in the sense that we don't have a lot of people. When I say that there are few of us, we're really a small group. Other people can have twice as many resources with our own size. So we have assessed all of the tools. I think we assessed 7 different CMs, and which shows the one that gave us a greater versatility with less requirements, so easier to use. So integration, for instance, of all the events in the CM, that's easier. So I have like 3 different hats. That was the easiest. We've done a deployment in all our servers of ISLO agents with the same configuration, and you send them to the same 2 places, and then in all network devices, the communication bits have the same, and at the end it's a single location, or really 2 locations where all events are received. And for instance, the first phase is to collect all events and test all the tools, and you start testing. That was simple. The logical part, which is what we're interested in, we're still developing it. The CM really has been working for a year, and in 1 year we've made a lot more information that we expected to get, but in CM you need somebody to be checking it all the time, and we're working on it. I think we know each other. Yeah. You've talked about the problems that you find in security, in service, denial of service. Have you considered having somebody doing those tests on your machine? Because you talk about 3G, but somebody can come and really screw you. Wouldn't it be better for you to test those machines and see if the man in the middle that you're talking about is real and you can do something about it, or to cipher communications? Well, all our communications, the machines are silly machines, but all the traffic they generate is HTTPS. So for the man in the middle, when I only get a physical medium, it's harder. If they open and they start testing to get to know me, then we're talking about something else. But it's something that doesn't get to that. We are considering starting strengthening internally beyond having a SOC to strengthen the internal part. And we're talking about it, but we are a company which is very agile. We like to produce, and that's what really affects us. Everything to do with organizing or paperwork, that's harder for us. So we're a very agile company doing things, and it is something that we want to do, but we have to get organized to see how we can do it. And I'm the first one who wants that to be there. I want somebody doing internal audits, but right now we contract them. We have one external audit a year, just like in the web and everything. But yes, I would like to have somebody testing those things for me, and we can talk later. You have mentioned physical security. Do you have a warning system or an alarm that indicates that a bar is actually manipulating that machine? Because if they really, yes, the collectors go every day to every bar. So every 2 days there is one person coming from the company, and even if it's been tampered with, they will notice. And if somebody has been tampered with it, perhaps I won't notice on the same day, but the day later I will know. Hello, Eneko. I am Andres Naranjo from 11 Paths, and thanks for the presentation. Very interesting one and very precise. And I want to ask an indiscreet question, and it's some information that you probably have. When things go wrong, we know that perfect security doesn't exist, and I'd like to know if you know at a certain point we had an incident and this was the price. How much did it cost? Can you give us that information when you've had an incident that has had an economic impact, which is probably what gets our salaries? I don't know if this is wood, because I want to touch. No, there's plastic here. Right now, as of today, a security incident as such we have not had, and that's why I wanted to touch wood, because as I say, we're small. But if we look at, you've mentioned 11 Paths, you come from there. The impact on 11 was 0. Yes, I know. In our case, we were lucky because WannaCry didn't affect us like it did affect you, but we are young and 34 Talibans. I said the service, there's no port 445, and the WannaCry and that sort of thing doesn't get to us. We've had no security incidences. We have had near misses, indirect attacks. Somebody has had a DDoS, but I am not aware that I've had of having an attack. But that doesn't mean that I haven't had, because how long does a company to realize? How long does a company to realize that they've had an attack? It's 2 years or 100 days, or yes, we have to redefine. We do not have credit cards, but somebody who actually uses through bots, through any information, internal information that they may have, or insider information that has had an attack, that has derived an economic impact. You must have had some of those. Yes, there are users that try to look for weird things. They want to get in internal. Some had insider information. There used to be a defect in our platform. We had applied a logic, and we knew that a condition could happen, and that was exploited. And that means that somebody has given information, and somebody is using it. Somebody who started betting and claiming bets and getting benefit from that. We've known that. But when we talk about a security breach, what can happen is that somebody can place a bet and get a bit more money because confidential information. You mentioned credit cards. We do not save them. We have external breaches, so what you can steal from our information are DNAs or identity cards, names, emails, telephone numbers. I have more problems with suppliers that have shut something down for a while, and that's a huge loss for me. Having I don't know how many machines shut down, depending on what machines we're talking about, it's a lot of money that I don't. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, in terms of losing service for a couple of hours, what's the economic impact? Yes, we've mentioned that, and the legal department is actually looking at our contract, because just like in machines, we have statistics of approximately what benefit we have from every machine. And if that machine is stopped for however many hours, I can guess how much I've lost, and the legal department is going to go into that and say, perhaps we can remove that from the fees that I have to pay for that. But for us, it is a problem, but the biggest problem is not that one. In the Basque Country, if our platforms goes down for 4 hours, we not only get a fine, but you may have the license removed. Do you know what that entails? That is huge. So the economic impact is, in that case, would be, you cannot estimate it. So I don't know how to explain that well. I am more into IT. We haven't had security incidents. It's more that the problem has been that we've been prevented from giving the service for a limited amount of time, and that means that we've gone after the ex-companies. I know, I'm sorry, we have no more time, but Eneko is going to be around. Yes, if you want to have to ask further questions, I'm around.
I wish I found some chords in an order that is new. I wish I didn't have to rhyme every time I sang. I was told when I get older all my fears would shrink, but now I'm insecure and I care what people think.